And now we will have a look to an industry that is also very much transforming, namely the music industry. Talking from the viewpoint of consumers, today it's paradise. I mean, it was never as easy to find and consume music than today. You have it everywhere with your streaming. Music is very emotional and it's part of our daily lives. So that makes it very interesting for brands to get involved and collaborate. But for old players, such as labels, today is quite a challenging time. I mean, it's a bit better now than a few years ago, but it's still challenging. So old players need to work out new strategies how to work, which our next guest and presenter will explain. I'm looking forward to announce Lars Bendix Düysen. He's Vice President Brand Live Licensing at Sony Music, and he will talk about the need for strong partnerships in the digital music age. Hi, Lars.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks so much for the kind introduction.
Maybe you will agree to one sentence I read in an article about the future of music.
Yeah.
People don't buy music, they buy the brand. So tell us more about that.
I will try my very best.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lars Bendix Düysen. I'm Vice President for Brands, Live and Licensing at Sony Music GSA. And I'll be happy to talk about the need for strong partnerships in the digital music age in maximum 12 minutes, promised. So first of all, a quick introduction to my person. I was born on a small island in the North Sea, very close to Denmark, called Sylt, when there was no internet and no smartphones for mainstream by that time. My first job, I started with Bertelsmann Music Group, and after a couple of years, I changed industries, working as head of music for O2 Germany, then went to Ireland, took over the entire content business and mobile portals. And in my last role, I was responsible for setting up strong partnerships for the O2 brand, including the O2 Worlds. Now, since 2013, I'm working for Sony Music, working with artists, working with agencies, working with brands. And what can I say? I'm loving it. So Sony Music is part of Sony Corp, as we all know. Just to give you a rough indication, nearly 120,000 employees worldwide, nearly 70 billion euros of revenue annually. And our sister companies are called PlayStation, Xperia, Hardware, and Pictures. Some of the labels that belong to Sony Music are Ariola, the root of German Schlager, of course, as you might know it, B1, the EDM label from London, signing talent based on trends in the internet, and last and not least, Europa, the family label containing, for example, die drei Fragezeichen, the three investigators, yeah, and most importantly for today, 4Music, the home of Calvin Colt, who will be performing just in a minute for you. Some of the other artists that you might know from our roster is Justin Timberlake, Depeche Mode, Pink, Foo Fighters, Shakira, Snoop Doggy Dogg, Miley Cyrus, Bruce Springsteen, Pharrell Williams, Daft Punk, Beyoncé, and Bob Dylan. So what's important when you set up a strong partnership? Well, the most important thing is that the artist feels comfortable. So in our latest showreel from Brands Live and Licensing, we were asking our artists specifically what's important to them when we set up a partnership.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Yes?
Could you play something with a beat?
What do you mean, something with a beat?
You know, something I could dance to.
The brand and the artist have to connect. I look for brands that represent the same values and qualities.
Was mir wichtig ist, dass die Marke meine Version versteht und unterstützt und wie Partner agieren und nicht wie Dienstleister.
It is very important that it needs to match the brand of Calvin Colt. It needs to add value to my fan.
Mr. Johannes, hello!
Working with Sony Division Brands Life Licensing has been an absolute pleasure. It's broadened my horizons and given me the opportunity to work with wonderful people.
Well, I'm out of here.
Let's get it knocking harder.
Six years later, here we are recording the actual version for the actual Sony Bravia advert, so that's pretty crazy.
I'm riding around in Stockholm in a T-Roc Volkswagen car with Sarah Larsson.
Hello, hello, yes we are.
Harder, 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 harder,
So why is there actually a need to create strong partnerships? Well, to give you a little bit of background, the music market is in constant change, yeah, and the music industry is adopting to it. Let's say, maybe not by free will, but definitely for the good. There's a strong change from physical to digital consumption. When I started in 2013, the physical sales share was still by 70%. Now it's down to 30, and 70 is digital. So we've seen a change in business models and in the change in consumer content behavior. Yeah, it's going from ownership to access, and this is where we see analogies to other industries as well. For example, automotive, where it's not so important for a young target group anymore to buy a car and to possess it, but more the access to mobility services through services like Share Now. So music streaming is growing rapidly, and access is not that important anymore. So what's the situation for labels then? Looking at it, we're talking about a pure platform economy. A very small number of music streaming service provider, the likes of Spotify and Apple Music, are dominating the business and are channeling the traffic to the content, the artist, and the playlist that they love. It's a very data-driven model, and it's cycling around ad-funded and premium accounts. Nowadays, you can find up to 50 million songs on what platform? You can imagine how hard it is for a newcomer artist to get discovered on a platform like that. But even for established artists, it's hard to fight for their share of voice these days. So partnerships increase the budgets for marketing campaigns and will help you to channel traffic from the outside to the platform where your content sits. In a world where consumers are constantly bombarded by brand messages, it's very hard for brands to cut through to consumers and in their hearts. The declining relevance of traditional media like TV comes on top of it. So what you need to do as a brand today is to deliver value to the customers, to play a role and to stay in the relevance set. That brings me to the next point, how to create strong partnerships. At BrandsLife Licensing within Sony Music, we're looking at the three-step approach here. It all starts with the data and the analytics, of course. Yeah, we're looking at the brand KPIs, we're looking at consumer insights, we're looking at big data coming from streaming services. Then, once we understood that, we're coming to block 2, which is creative excellence. And this is where the fun starts. We're very close to our artists. Yeah? Even when we sign an artist, we are involved nowadays to understand what their passion points are besides music. Yeah? When it comes to fashion, when it comes to travel, when it comes to foods and beverages, to FMCG and to automotives. And the passion points besides music and a mixture with music is the creative mass that we're creating great campaigns on together with our brand partners. Then the third block is the activation block. Given and assuming that the artist really likes what we created together with the artist and the brand, he will happily post on the social media channels, but also, of course, we know where the new formats like branded entertainment and native advertising sits with relevant partners. Our Sony Music segmentation tells us a lot about the consumer. Yeah, we got 31 segments here, and the segmentation consists of the love for music and the age angle. Love for music, for example, fanatics would live and die for music. They need music to define their personality, yeah? And they're always the first in your friendship circle who knew about the first and the coolest band. The indifferents still value music, but it's more the backing soundtrack in their lives. To create value, you need to know your target group well. We know exactly what kind of top influencers are working in the segment. We know exactly what hobby and priorities our segments have, and also what other artists and what other brands are of relevance for them. And based on that and their music taste, and we create content that works then on the channels that they use to consume content. We know if it's a target group that still is consuming radio or if they're listening to Spotify, if it's Netflix or traditional TV, if it's Facebook or if it's Instagram. And according to that knowledge, we create content that works in social media and creates a lot of reach. So what do strong partnerships look like? I brought one of our examples that we did in last year with our customer and our partner Kia. Kia is a great product. They're actually the only brand in automotive that offer a 7-year warranty on their products. Yeah. For that little piece here of art, they hired the Audi TT designer, to design the whole product, and they hired the engineer who designed and engineered the M3 for BMW. The only thing, it's still a Kia, and they had to do something for their brand reputation. This is why they partnered with Sony Music, and after analyzing the target groups, we came to the conclusion Paul van Dyk, who was about to release his new album, was exactly the right fit to create a campaign together with them. So what we did then is created 3 online spots, including Paul van Dyk and Kia and Stinger. 1 exclusive gig at the EA. We flew out super fans to LA, meeting Paul van Dyk, hanging with him at the Dream State Festival, having backstage access, and then even created merch artists. I have a small recap video here for you that explains the campaign. Enjoy.
Es geht halt letztendlich um Lifestyle, um Erlebnisse. Und genau das wurde versucht mit diesem Auto auch für Kia umzusetzen. Und natürlich ist auch Erlebnisse kreieren, zusammen mit den Leuten, ganz essential für das, was ich mache, musikalisch. Und insofern passt es sehr gut. Es ging nicht darum, mich zu verstellen und wilde Stunts zu fahren zum Beispiel, sondern mich eben mit einem Auto, was schick ist, was solide ist, was modern ist, zu zeigen. Und es ist einfach ein cooles Auto. Ohne den Support über all die Jahre könnte ich das, was ich mache, nicht machen. Deswegen bin ich unglaublich dankbar für all den Support. Mir bedeutet das sehr, sehr viel. Und insofern freue ich mich drauf, die nachher zu sehen, vielleicht die eine oder andere persönliche Anekdote zu hören, weil viele Leute verbindet ja auch was mit der Musik.
Persönlich kennengelernt, das war so cool, das war so cool.
So goodbye, happy audience and fans. With that campaign, we generated a lot of coverage from B2B media, including Werbung und Verkauf and Horizont, of course, lifestyle press as well, and even yellow press. With a special event that we conducted on Mallorca, where we brought together influencers from automotive, lifestyle, and music industry. We even got the Influencer Award from German Brand Award in 2018, which made us a lot proud, of course. And Paul van Dyk, after a couple of years with his comeback, achieved the highest chart entry ever in his musical career based on that campaign. So that was my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm very happy to connect with all of you if you have questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
So welcome.
For this interesting case you just described with Kia and Paul van Dyk, how do you decide then which artist fits well to which brand? Because does he like to drive cars? Or how did you decide he's perfect for that brand and then the success was right, obviously?
Exactly. So first of all, from talking to the artists, like I said, you know, we're very close to our artists and we understand what their passion points. If Paul van Dyk would have said, you know, I'm just not a car type, you know, he would have maybe not the right fit, you know. And then secondly, of course, based on the Sony Music segmentation, where we know exactly that's the target group that Kia wants to communicate to and resonate with, and that's the target group and the followership of Paul van Dyk, and that was the perfect match, and this is why we created a campaign together.
And do you as well consult the brands that are approaching you, or do they have their own experts saying, okay, we want to change in that direction, our feeling, our brand, so we want to have that artist to work with? How does that work?
I mean, when it comes to artists and to music, we're definitely the ones who do the consultancy about it, you know, but we're not an agency. That's important for me to underline. You know, we're a competence center for our artists, and the most important thing for us is to make our artists happy and to give them a reason to stay and stick with Sony Music, yeah? But of course, we're happy to have the dialogue with the brand and with the agencies and to give our experience.
And do you sometimes approach artists who you would like to collaborate with and to bring together with a brand, but they say, no, I don't really like that because I think my fan base won't like the way of selling out in a way? Do you have that as well?
Well, maybe they're not so much about the way we would do it, but maybe like a general skepsis where they say, I don't see that in my career, and we absolutely highly respect that, of course.
Yeah, okay. And then, obviously you don't do it.
Maybe at a later stage then.
And let me ask you a quite provocative question, maybe to ask somebody by a major label. Because today, with the internet, it's very easy to get your music out for musicians.
Yeah.
So why do you need labels still? Why are you still around in a way?
Absolute relevant question, and the Brands Live licensing department of Sony Music is trying to give an answer to that. You know, I tried to explain that we have like an international structure in brands business and music licensing business, using also our network from One Sony, and this can't be replicated by anyone else. You know, no other company who's doing similar things like we do, but also not a management or an artist by himself, because it's possession of Sony Corp. You know, so that's definitely a reason. But the question is absolutely relevant. You can upload your content, but like I said, it's always the challenge, you know, to get discovered on a streaming service. There are 50 million songs, you know.
Yeah, it's a hell lot out there.
You need strong partners to support you.
Yeah. And now the revenue share today mostly comes from touring instead of recorded music than it was before. How do you adapt as a label to that new development?
Well, it's still highly relevant what we do and very profitable. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. When you compare live music to recorded music, the live music business is quite significant and quite big, you know, but that doesn't mean that there's no margin in recorded music anymore.
Yeah, I know that's not what I mean, but I mean the more like getting in from touring, do you as well organize even more events now? Because you have the feeling that that is even more important now in the digital events to time to be as a live event and to do something, create something extraordinary.
Yeah,
you know?
no, we don't actually offer touring business. We got a live department in my department as well. So when it comes to, for example, doing an artist booking for a corporate brand, like even insurance or fashion, and you book one of our artists, that's absolutely fine for us to facilitate a deal like that. But we don't organize a live tour.
All right. Okay. So, but talking of live events, would you say that it's getting in future more important?
I hope so, you know. I mean, live is just, you know, unreplaceable. It's the way to experience music. I mean, you'll see that in a second with Calvin, you know. I mean, there's no replacement for that.
There you go. Well, Calvin, that's my word now to take over, because we'll come to the first performance on board. So thank you very much, Lars,
so welcome
for your presentation. Enjoy the rest of the flight.
Will do. Was my pleasure, and see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.